Birds of blue feathers
have to stick together!
In recent years, animation studios have been especially focused on making their content more diverse and inclusive. Although we grew up with Mulan and Lilo and Stitch, these were relatively more isolated attempts that quickly fizzled out. Until the early 2010s, when studios made active decisions towards creating more inclusive content. Blue Sky Studios' fun adventure series Rio was a step in the right direction.
Yeah, it looks like you're stuck with me all night.
The director has constantly gifted us with animation treasures, from Ice Age to Ferdinand that we have cherished over the years. But with Rio, the director takes a step closer to home and introduces us to the adventures of Blue, a tame blue macaw, in the lovely city of Rio de Janeiro. It's no wonder then that Rio is such a celebration of Brazil with its kaleidoscope of colors, as it is a warm love story between two birds on the brink of extinction. What makes Rio even more special is that it actually picks up a real cause, as blue macaw parrots have been an endangered species for years and sadly became officially extinct, at least in the wild, in the year 2019. Whether it was the director's intentions or not, the franchise will always serve as a reminder of these beautiful species and its rising necessity protecting our environment and its creatures. Rio already has two parts. While the first Rio movie was released in 2011, its sequel, Rio 2, came out in 2014. 8 years have gone by, and over the years, fans have speculated on the possibility of future sequels that will turn Rio into a full-fledged trilogy, or even a wider franchise including spin-offs. Fortunately for us, the director has always kept that door open, as both he and the cast have shown interest in continuing Blue and Jules' saga of adventures. So it's only a matter of time until we get Rio 3. Let's revise what we know about it so far. Little can be found as confirming information for this release, but rumors on the internet point at all the original cast returning to voice their respective characters, and we can even find some plot hints if we take a look at the following list of actors. Jesse Eisenberg repeating the lead role of Blue, as well as Anne Hathaway voicing Jewel. Eddie Redmayne would be voicing Sam, Blue's long-lost father, and Natalie Portman would be voicing Stephanie, Blue's long-lost mother, which totally gives us some spoilers about the exciting inclusion of new characters in the sequel. For the rest of the cast, we have George Lopez as Raphael, will.i.am as Pedro, Jamie Foxx as Nico, Tracy Morgan as Louise, Andy Garcia as Eduardo, Jaden Lieberger as Thiago, Zendaya as Baya, Olivia Cook as Carla, Bruno Mars as Roberto, Rito Monero as Mimi, and Philip Lawrence as Philippe. Going beyond the voice actors, we have zero doubts that Carlos Saldanha's leading role as the director for the upcoming Rio 3 movie. The director, who has made sure of infusing the Rio movies with true Brazilian heritage and local spirit, has been officially announced as returning as the director. He said he's never hidden his interest on returning to the saga and even talked about it on an interview. Of course, I have lots of stories to tell, so we're starting to get ready for it because we love these characters and there are so many things I couldn't get into the movies. I wanted to take them to a different place, so I still don't know about the plot. We'll see what happens. The first Rio movie tells us the story of Blue being illegally took and smuggled out of Brazil as a baby and being fatally found by a little girl, Linda, who takes him in and raises him. But their lives takes a sudden turn when Tulio invites them to Rio, given the fact that Blue is the last known male species of the blue Sphinx macaw, and they need him to mate with Jewel, Anne Hathaway, the last known female of their species, if they want to avoid extinction.
¿Qué?
You're standing on my throat.
Oh, you're an American.
Thanks.
Then things take a wilder turn when both birds are stolen and smuggled once again, creating a dangerous and a fun adventure. While this first installment ends with the two birds falling in love and raising an offspring of 3 hatchlings as accommodated domestic birds, the second movie starts just there and explores their adventures as a family as they start their journey to the Amazon in an effort to make contact with the tribe of blue macaws that's allegedly thriving there, untouched by the humans. humans. They eventually find this tribe and Jules' old acquaintances and family members. This sequel ends when the family decides to establish permanently in the Amazon and use the city as a summer vacation place. Now, in a recent interview, the cast from Rio 2 talked about what they'd like to see on the upcoming film. Jamie Foxx, who plays Nico, would love to see the family going on an adventure in Miami. Andy Garcia, who plays Eduardo, said he'd love for the birds to go on some kind of an excursion. Anyways, if we have in mind the first two movies and the words from the cast, we can be sure that Rio 3 will mark the beginning of a new series of adventures for Blue's family. Sadly, in the real world, the International Union for Conservation of Nature officially declared the blue Sphinx macaw extinct in the wild back in 2019. Our blue friends aren't doomed yet. The remaining members of this species are now safely maintained through a captive breeding program at several conservation organizations of the Brazilian government. One of these organizations, the Association for the Conservation of Threatened Parrots, moved the birds back from Germany to Brazil in 2020 as part of their plan to release blue Sphinx macaw back into the wild. It would be really educational and interesting if Disney uses Rio 3 to talk in depth about this program and raise awareness of the very urgent need of taking action towards regarding the protection of endangered species. Disney Plus recently confirmed and released several sequels for animated films, including Ice Age, Adventures of Buck Wild, an animated sequel for Night at the Museum, and of course our beloved Rio 3. Of course, these films would be in different states of development. One thing to have in mind is, given that Disney closed Blue Sky Studios, the animation studio responsible for Rio and Rio 2 back in April 2021. With this change made, the production of Rio 3 would be in queue for the 20th Century Animation, the 3D animation studios producing films for Disney after the Company of the Mouse acquired 20th Century Fox back in 2019. The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild was already released on January 28, 2022 in North America and on March 25, 2022 in the rest of the world. And Disney also announced Nico and Pedro, an upcoming computer-animated musical comedy adventure film.
Let's back it up. Beep, 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 beep.
If you remember Nico and Pedro, the funny guys from Rio and Rio 2, who seem to be the experts at creating music and producing musicals in the middle of the Amazon forest, you'll know that this spin-off, produced by the Bartle Entertainment and distributed by Walt Disney Pictures, has the potential to be an instant success among Rio and musical fans alike. This film is allegedly going to premiere in Disney Plus, but the official release date is still unknown. Now that we know the upcoming things Disney has planned for their animation movies, and given that the director is totally on board with the idea of directing a third Rio installment, we can definitely wait to see Rio 3 released in the not-so-distant future. We saw the director working on Ferdinand back in 2017, so we think he's had some time to rest and he may be ready to come back, even though recent reports talk about him working on a untitled Harold and the Purple Crayon film to be released in 2023. So we'll have to wait for this one completed before he gets back to committing and directing Rio 3, which has been recently rumored to be released February 29, 2024 under his direction. We even have some information about Rio 3 writer, since the site Discussing Film reported this information. Jim Hecht is already currently developing an animated series based on a New York Times best-selling children's book and writing streaming movies for 20th Century Studios Disney Plus. The future projects include the next installment in Ice Age franchise, the next installment in Rio franchise, and an animated feature version of the Night at the Museum movie franchise for 21 Labs Entertainment and Disney Plus.
Come on, chop chop, let's get started!